Hello again, Timberwolves fans. It is time for another episode of Timberwolves Explosion. Today is episode number 33 of Timberwolves Explosion. It is Saturday, September 12th, 2009. Timberwolves Explosion is available on thesportstuff.com, iTunes, and timberwolvespress.com. Thank each and every one of you for downloading and listening to this wonderful show. I appreciate it very, very much. On thesportstuff.com, in the right-hand side, there's a button that says TSS Boards. Simply click on that. That is how you can sign in to the message boards on thesportstuff.com, which are 100% free and 100% fun. That is how you can interact with me. You can vote on our polls, and you can get involved. Don't just watch sports, get involved. Also, timberwolvespress.com, timberwolvespress.com, your one-stop source for everything Timberwolves basketball. Do check that out. Nice enough to have my podcast, my show on the website as well. I also write columns, though I haven't lately due to scheduling. And, that's just how it goes. Well, yesterday was September the 11th, and I want to express my respect and pay my respect to those out there that were affected by that day one way or another, and of course those that were lost, and I will give them a moment of silence right now. All right, well, on today's show, we're going to talk about Ramon Sessions. The Timberwolves signed Ramon Sessions to an offer sheet last Friday, the 7th of September, the day after I recorded the previous Timberwolves Explosion, predicting the Timberwolves would make another move in the not-too-distant future. In fact, in the very near future, and they made it within hours. That's right, within hours. That move is official. The Milwaukee Bucks did not match yesterday. The deadline was set at 4 p.m. yesterday. Ramon Sessions, surprising us all, is a Timberwolf. Also, the Timberwolves acquire Antonio Daniels and get rid of the junk contract of Darius Sangaila. So we'll be getting into that immediately after this next break here. So we'll talk to you then. Here on thesportstuff.com, join the family with Purple Mafia. With Brett Favre now in the mix with Adrian Peterson, the best running back there is, along with the new Purple People Eaters, the Viking ship is on course for something great. We're available on thesportstuff.com and on iTunes. We'll bring you the most honest and passionate Viking show there is. Here on thesportstuff.com, we're turning up the tempo on Brave the Wild. A new era has come to the state of hockey with new attitude Martin Havlet, a more open style with Coach Todd Richards, and a new philosophy in General Manager Chuck Fletcher. We're available on thesportstuff.com and on iTunes. Answer the call and get ready to brave the wild. And we are back here on Timberwolves Explosion, episode number 33, which is a reminder for iPod users. Well, first and foremost, we're going to get into the main story of today right now. Ramon Sessions is a Timberwolf. As I mentioned, the Timberwolves signed him to an offer sheet last Friday, the 7th of September, which came as a complete shock to me. And it was within less than 24 hours after it was official that Ricky Rubio would not be coming to the Minnesota Timberwolves for a minimum 2 years, and now a possibility of 3. As I'll mention that as well, which could lead to even more reason why Ramon Sessions is a Timberwolf now at this point in time. Yeah, it's a minimum 2 years as Ricky Rubio is eligible for a buyout for $1.4 million U.S. dollars, of course, so which is about 20% of the previous buyout. A lot easier to do considering a deal was in place right before Ricky Rubio decided to back out, conveniently, very conveniently, and I'm really beginning to question Ricky Rubio's sincerity about coming to the Minnesota Timberwolves. I really am. And there also is talk on Real GM and other places that, hey, Ricky Rubio might make it 3, not 2, because Rubio would no longer be on the rookie scale for salary. He would no longer be stuck in the structured rookie scale, the rookie salary scale. He would be eligible for any amount of money provided the team was within the salary cap. Now, unfortunately, I'm not sure yet, and I need to do some research on this. I was going to, but I haven't yet, and I apologize. If Ricky Rubio would have Larry Bird rights, so the Minnesota Timberwolves, should they sign major free agents next summer, if Ricky Rubio would have Larry Bird rights and the Wolves would not have to worry about the salary cap, provided they wanted to add Rubio to an amount over what would be the salary cap exception. Now, we do hope the Timberwolves won't be too far over the cap after next summer, though at the same time, you do want this club to sign the best players available, the best players that want to come to this team. And if the Wolves have to worry about being able to keep cap space for Ricky Rubio going into 2010, I'm going to be utterly furious. And I'm sorry, that's absolute bullcrap. This player, Ricky Rubio, if there's any hint of this guy trying to hold this team hostage, I'm sorry. I'm just going to lose it, you know. And just the thought of that irks me to no end. So the Timberwolves provide, you know, and the Timberwolves then decide, hey, you know, I mean, this is a good sign that there is a little bit of pride here, and it's good that, hey, you know, enough of Ricky Rubio. We need a player who can play now, a player who has a future in this league, and to be honest, his dollar amount is cap friendly. And now at the time, at first, when we made this deal, it's like, about $4 million a year, approximately $4 million a year, about 3.6 in the first year, and ending around 4.7-ish. You know, because it obviously gradually goes up. That's how most contracts go, other than Kirk Heinrich's, which was a descending contract. Most contracts ascend over the course or over the life of the deal. The fourth year, I believe, is a player option for Ramon Sessions, and that wouldn't be surprising that he would keep it. But the good news is also Ramon Sessions would have Larry Bird rights because of 3 years. There's always the early Bird rights as well after 2, but there's restrictions. You can sign for a certain amount, a certain percentage. I believe it's an 80% raise. So I mean, that'd be worth about shucks. That'd be worth a contract of about $7 million. That's not bad. $7 million a year starting, but still, if Ramon Sessions ends up being the next Gilbert Arenas, we're screwed. He's gone. But that's just how that goes. You know, like if you don't, if he didn't have bird rights, which he will. So yeah, that's the idea that I'm trying to get across there. So he will have bird rights. That's what matters the most when it comes to him. And of course, as I mentioned, the $1 million question is: will Ricky Rubio have Larry Bird rights? So I'm going to have to get back to you on that one. But more excited about Ramon Sessions and trying to keep Rubio on the back burner at this point in time, just out of pure frustration with Ricky Rubio right now. But yeah, the one thing is how I was worried about, hey, you know, we're trying to eliminate salary, right, going into next offseason. So then we sign a guy for a 4-year deal at $4 million a year. And I was like, you know, that kind of eats up a little bit of that cap space that we were going to have next summer. So then what do the Wolves do? They turn around, they get rid of that $4 million almost immediately. Darius Sangaila's $4 million that would have been on the books going into next summer will be off the books because the Minnesota Timberwolves earlier this week on Monday acquired Antonio Daniels, veteran point guard who was he was a third overall pick by the or fourth overall pick by the Vancouver Grizzlies at the time. Eventually Memphis Grizzlies, but Vancouver Grizzlies. Looked to be the point guard of the future there. It just did not work out that way for Antonio Daniels. Never really lived up to the hype there, but over the course of time became a very steady veteran, a very solid player over the course of his career, and was a piece to a championship San Antonio Spurs team. He fills his role, and he's a backup, and now already, man, which makes me feel old, he's already 34 years old, is Antonio Daniels, folks. And there he is. There is your veteran point guard that the Wolves so desperately needed for so long. He's finally on your team. Mainly, yeah, he's just going to be that veteran guard off the bench. So now the talk is that Ramon Sessions can play both positions and that he might be the starting shooting guard going into this coming season. The only problem is Ramon Sessions is not a three-point shooter at all. At all. You look at his numbers, he attempts less than half a three a game, for one, over his career. And his three-point percentage, 22% for his career. He shot 43% his first year, but he shot like 5 3-pointers. Lottie freaking duh. Last year over the longer season, of course, playing 17 games his first season, 79 last year. This young man emerged nicely. Ramon Sessions, as I'm sliding back into him now, as he is the main focus of the show. Just had to get into Antonio Daniels for the salary purposes and the veteran point guard thing, which the veteran point guard importance coming in here. Finally, we have that to go with Johnny Flynn and Ramon Sessions. Now, Ramon Sessions last year, was a starter backup, basically, kind of was both. So now the all-important deal where how Ramon Sessions turns out as a starter, you look at his numbers, pretty darn good. Averaged 15 points a game and 7.6 assists. That's pretty darn good. Pretty darn good. 44% from the floor overall. As Sessions is a slasher. He's not a shooter, he's a slasher. He attacks the rim. And originally, Sessions was a second-round pick by the Miami Heat. Wound up with the Milwaukee Bucks later. And Bucks could not keep him because of the way their salaries are structured. And they have a point guard of the future there now in Brandon Jennings, a guy I kind of liked coming in the draft, but I ended up liking Johnny Flynn more, and so did the Wolves, thankfully. It was just one of those deals. A much lesser version of what happened with Gilbert Arenas and the Golden State Warriors years ago. He was a second-round pick that blew up. And he didn't have bird rights. If you're over the cap, you're not going to be able to sign a second-round pick because you only have them for 2 years. You only have their rights for 2 years. And you're screwed. Other than that, they are a restricted free agent. But if you can't afford to keep them, you're screwed. So that's the end of the deal there. There was no way the Warriors were going to be able to keep Gilbert Arenas at $86 million at the time. No way in heck. The similarities between the two, they're both high-scoring point guards. But other than that, Ramon Sessions is not Gilbert Arenas. But he could be a very poor man's version. Could be a nice factor for this Timberwolves team. Frankly, I'm shocked that he wound up here. It almost reeks that there was kind of a shadow plan coming in. Because flirted with the Knicks for the longest time, back and forth. It was just kind of like a drama show. You go on Real GM, Sessions talking with Knicks, still waiting for, to get something done. Sessions talking with Clippers, and I believe other teams out there as well, including the Milwaukee Bucks still, who needed to get below the luxury tax to keep Sessions, and they didn't. So that was the end of that. And then immediately after Ricky Rubio leaves, Ramon Sessions comes here. It's just like, it almost seems like all along David Kahn kind of let Sessions know you're coming. We don't think, he probably knew Rubio wasn't going to come here or something. He probably was secretly pessimistic going in and let Ramon Sessions know, hey, we're going to offer you this amount. If you're available, we will be willing to offer you this amount. So don't jump to a 2-year deal with the New York Knicks. We'll give you 4. And that's what happened, possibly. That's what I believe could be what happened here. And came as quite a shock to me and many other Minnesota Timberwolves fans. Just a huge shock. A huge shock. I mean, I remember years ago, or just 2 years ago, he was this surprise player in the Milwaukee Bucks in his rookie year, averaging 7.5 assists a game. It's like, where the heck did he come from? Well, the second-round pick that worked out. And that's what matters more than anything at this point in time. So that's pretty much going to be the gist of the show today. It's just a very interesting turn of events for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And in a lot of ways, very exciting, as Ramon is 23 years old, as I mentioned many times. He does fit into the long-term plan, as David Kahn mentions, that immediately after we were able to officially acquire him, that, Ramon Sessions is in the long-term plan. Other players weren't. Bobby Brown was a throw-in to the New Orleans Hornets for with Darius and Kyla for Antonio Daniels, which makes up for the salary difference in acquiring Sessions. It's as if it's almost like getting him for free in a way going into 2010. Don't lose any salary cap space whatsoever. All that cap space will still be there. One final note, which is a total bummer. A guy who was affordable, who was very, 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 very valuable, I thought, potentially could be in the long-term plans for this team. Not sure why the Timberwolves didn't find a way to keep this guy. Rodney Carney is going back to the Philadelphia 76ers. Very, very unfortunate. And David Kahn also had mentioned that he likes Carney and hoped to re-sign him, but it just didn't happen. It was not high on his list, as Jerry Zgoda reports in his blog, Jerry Zgoda of the Star Tribune. Apparently, Carney was not high on his list. He would have been a little higher on mine, to be honest. It's a little frustrating. Is the guy could hit 3-point shots, and there's like one or two other players in this team that can hit 3-point shots, and Ramon Sessions ain't one of them, nor would have been Ricky Rubio. Ramon Sessions and Ricky Rubio are similar in terms of they can't really shoot. They're better playmakers, I guess you could say. Where Sessions is a better overall scorer at this point in time. You lose a guy that could hit threes and provide a major defensive spark off the bench. But I guess you get rid of the whole competition screwing around between Corey Brewer and Rodney Carney. So now Brewer's role will definitely increase. I guarantee it at this point in time, provided his health truly is 95% or better, as Bill Simmons mentioned on the previous show about a week ago. The dealing ain't done yet. That's all I'm going to say at this point in time, as I'm going to conclude the show here. Chucky Atkins and Mark Blount still on the roster. I expect at least one of them to be gone, if not both. I'm pretty much guaranteeing that Atkins is gone. Now with Sessions and Antonio Daniels in the mix. Losing another forward in Darius Sangila. Getting rid of a point guard in Bobby Brown that was not going to be in the rotation anyway. Daniels most certainly will get some playing time. It's going to be very, very, very interesting indeed. And as mentioned about 1,000 times, that Atkins deal not fully guaranteed. Very easily, a very easy buyout probably for Atkins. Still kind of screwing around with that. We may end up having to keep Mark Blount because we have two legit centers on this team right now, other than maybe Petrov, if you want to call him that. He's a nice rebounder for a skinny guy, but I don't know if you really can see him as much of a major center. Ryan Holland's extremely rare, can block a few shots, or extremely raw. He can block a few shots, but that's about it so far. And then Mark Blount, the infamous Mark Blount, who's got a nice mid-range shot, and that's it. For some reason, he was worth $7 million to the Boston Celtics a few years ago. He's got a mid-range shot. Doesn't block shots, doesn't score inside, he just has a nice mid-range shot. That's pretty much the end of Mark Blount. And an occasional dunk when he's wide open. Great. So, there will be more on the way, I believe. So I'm going to predict again, the Minnesota Timberwolves will be making another move in the very near future. As we're looking at our first training camp game against the preseason game, against the Toronto Raptors on the 9th of October. We are less than a month away from the preseason, baby. Oh, I'm starting to get excited. Man, this is going to be a very interesting season. You're going to see a lot of new faces and a couple of really exciting ones in Johnny Flynn and Ramon Sessions, I think. Very excited coming in. Hopefully it works out for the best, and we're going to call it a show today. I want to thank each and every one of you for listening. We will be talking to you very, very soon. Thank you. Take care.